In the name of God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. You may have noticed as you came into the church, there are a number of nativity scenes set up. Now, there's one right here. There's also a teeny tiny one that's on the chair over here next to me for the little kids that came at the 5 o'clock service. And it's very dear, so if you get a chance to look at it. But here you have sort of the main one. And you can see that Mary and Joseph are here, and the baby's in the manger. And there are shepherds that have come, and there are animals gathered around, all that you'd expect. And then off to the east, and I think this is actually geographically east, yes. Right? Off to the east, over there on the seat, are the wise men coming. You see, some of you may be able to see them, but if not now, you can see them later. But they're over there, and there's a camel sniffing the air, finding its way. So they're the wise ones, and it's about them that I'd like to wonder a bit, because the shepherds had their experience that we just heard about, where the angels came and. Did they sing to them, or did they say things to them? Well, something maybe of both. And they were all stirred up, and they went down to see what was happening in Bethlehem. And of all the populace, they're the ones, the shepherds out in the field, who were sort of picked to understand what was actually happening in Bethlehem that night. But at the same time, the wise men in the east were being clued in to something that was happening in Bethlehem, or at least west of where they were. And there may have been a comet in the sky, because they were astronomers. They might have seen a comet in the sky, or some star that appeared, but they took it as a sign and symbol that something dramatic was happening in the west. And it took them probably 2 years to get to Jesus. And by that time, he was a little, obviously a little boy, and their family was living in a house somewhere. But at the time of our story, where we are now, they're packing up far east, 2 years away. And what are they choosing to pack up to bring on their journey for this king who's being born? Well, it's interesting, because you've all heard, right? Gold, frankincense, and myrrh, that they brought gold, frankincense, and myrrh, and they brought that with them. And I've always assumed that was like a nest egg for the Christ child, like an education fund or something, to sort of place in the family's care for his future, But I don't think so. I don't think, and gold sort of sets the tone, like, oh, something really precious and valuable to enrich him. And then there's frankincense and myrrh, and you probably have heard about frankincense and myrrh, that they have other associations. But did you know, because I didn't know, that gold, frankincense, and myrrh are all associated with healing? They're all healing elements. And you might know that about gold, because I guess I knew about that. I knew that about gold before today, or before this week, that a friend of ours who has arthritis gets gold injections to ease her arthritis. Have you ever heard of that? But she actually has gold injections. It's not something everybody can afford to do, or because I don't think insurance pays for it, but she gets gold injections. And so I knew it had some healing properties, but gold actually is associated with restoring the physical body to health, and also allowing one to live into spiritual unity and your full potential. Isn't that interesting? That gold is associated with living in not only into physical health, but into spiritual unity with the one who created you, and into the full potential of your created life. Interesting. And then there's frankincense, and frankincense is associated with overcoming stress and overcoming despair. Interesting that they bring that as a gift to the Christ child. And then myrrh, well, myrrh is associated in the Egyptian culture with embalming. So you might have heard that. But myrrh in Eastern cultures is understood to be used to restore emotional calmness, clarity, and balance. Now, what about that? These wise men and wise women who travel from the East and come to the Christ child, why are they bringing these gifts of healing? Well, I think it has something to do with reflecting back to the Christ child what they understand this kingdom, this king, to be about. What has this king come into the world to bring? Well, this king, unlike the king that Herod thought him to be, that got Herod all worked up and said, we're going to go and get him, this king is a king of peace, a king of wholeness and restoration, a king of health, a king that has come to bring wholeness to humanity and to individuals within it. That this is God incarnate to heal the world. God has come in Christ to be a healing presence in your life, in my life, and through us to the whole world. And so the Magi, recognizing that this is the nature of this king, bring gifts that celebrate his authority, his kingship, his integrity. What is the strength of this kingdom that the Christ child has been born to bring into the world? What is it that's being celebrated through the gifts? Well, it's gold, frankincense, and myrrh to celebrate the healing of the physical, the psychological, the spiritual nature of men and women. That humanity might be permeated with health and might be able to be restored into the nature of what God made them to be. Now that it's occurring at this time of year in the winter that we celebrate all of this, well, probably Jesus was conceived at this time of year, but probably was born in the fall or the summer when the lambs were being born and the shepherds were out on the fields. But that we're celebrating at this day and time, I don't know about you, but when the days are shorter and when we are recovering from a political season and from all of the family gatherings, having the message brought to us that the Christ child is present to heal despair, to restore souls, to bring to the nature of humankind health and wholeness and restoration. Well, that's a message not only for the ages past or for ages to come, but for right here and right now. Jesus has been born to meet you in your despair, in your disease, in your distraction, in the burned out places of your soul, and brings healing and restoration there. And not only for you or for me as individuals, but for all of us as a community and a people. And this is Jesus' kingdom from the time of his birth right on through till now and on through the ages. He's bringing restoration and wholeness. He's the Prince of Peace, as we heard read today. So may this Christmas time be a time for you to renew your relationship with the baby Jesus, who has come to be born into your heart and life and into the life of the world to bring the easing of despair, the easing of spiritual separation from God, the easing of physical and psychiatric illness. He's come to restore us, to make us whole as individuals and as a people. He cares about you and cares about me. And he cares about all those who will be reached through us as we come into a deeper understanding of the power of his life to restore and to heal and to make us whole. Happy Christmas, each and every one of you. May you know Christ's love deep in your heart and have the joy of this season, not only in this day, but in all the days to come.